workforce of an organization. When everything is quiet, that is when we don't know, but that's when they are really doing the hard work. Once in a while, we see them helping to manage a crisis, but crises don't happen all the time. And so we don't want to think that it's only when there is a crisis that the HR people show up. They are indeed showing up when we are asleep at home. They don't sleep. When the calls come, they go to them fast. So it's very important. We are at a time in the economy where we all are quite hopeful of a turnaround. Just looking at how we are preparing to take good advantage of the recovery of the Nigerian economy. So it's a very well-timed conference and roundtable that we are having here this morning. So this talent management conference is a strategic gathering of CEOs, HR professionals, policymakers, and wellness advocates who are committed in different ways to building a resilient, productive people, having a primary focus on ensuring the well-being of our people. With 74% of Nigerian employees reportedly disengaged at work and productivity losses exceeding billions of dollars annually, the urgency to rethink talent management in our organizations has never been greater. This conference serves as a vital platform to explore how aligning employee well-being with organizational goals can unlock untapped profitability and, of course, long-term competitiveness. From practical wellness initiatives to engagement-driven leadership models, this event offers actionable insights to Nigerian businesses ready to future-proof their organization's workforce. We have invited a good number of experts who will be speaking to us here this morning. I have absolutely no doubt that for all of us who have found time to be here, that this will be a very productive session. Before I step away, I think it is important for me to acknowledge the sacrifice made by our speakers and panelists who have joined us this morning. I also would like to commend our partners and sponsors, Philips Consulting Limited, Blue Bob, Great Place to Work, and of course, Bank of Industry, that have ensured that part of the cost for today's event is fully underwritten. Once again, on behalf of Business Day, let me extend my profound welcome to you and my appreciation for your presence here this morning. Good morning and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the publisher of Business Day, Mr. Frank Aibogun, for that welcome address. Without taking any more of our time, I'd like to also make welcome a seasoned executive for over 30 years. He has experience spanning leadership, strategy, and business development across multiple industries. He currently serves as the country manager for Great Place to Work in Nigeria, Kenya, and Cote d'Ivoire, where he drives growth through strategic sales, marketing, and culture building initiatives. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Mr. Otamere Elegon is the country manager for Great Place to Work in Nigeria, Kenya, and Cote d'Ivoire.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you here today. I want to take special time to thank our partners, BusinessDay. We went out looking for a media partner, and happy to say we have found one in BusinessDay. And the beautiful thing about the fact is that BusinessDay is a great place to work. Our biggest challenge at the onset was to say, if they did a survey and they didn't become a great place to work, we're not certified as a, what would happen? But when they did the survey, resoundingly, they're a great place to work. And so it's easy to have those conversations with them. We are here today to talk about employee well-being. And in putting together this presentation, the question was, what would be the appropriate topic for this? And I talked about the fact that we needed to have, or talk about the science and art of employee well-being, insights from great workplaces. It made more sense because in this room we have people who are more science inclined, we have people who are more arts inclined, and so being able to find a bridge with this presentation will be great. We are a good place to work, the global authority on the workplace culture, available around about 170 plus countries globally. For us, the reason why companies are great workplaces is the level of trust that exists in these companies. And it's not far-fetched. We are all from families. Even with blood relationships, sibling rivalries can result in problems where the trust levels are not clear. And so if you imagine that if we have blood relationships and we have rivalries and strifes, imagine what it would look like if we are in an organization where we have people from different walks of life, from different ideologies coming together. The reason why they would keep and achieve those objectives was because they are living and building a great workplace in an environment of trust. So I have a couple of open quotes. One that says, the real voyage of discovery lies not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. Sorry? What's going on? Okay. Another one says, work is fundamentally about people and their well-being. It is essential for organizational success. So I will try with this session basically to talk about how data-driven insights and real-world examples can illustrate why companies need to cultivate a good workplace culture. Looking at meaningful work management, trust, employee support, and financial security. And so why does well-being matter? We are living in very interesting times. The world is evolving. We see a lot of emphasis around. You should move it away, okay? Thank you. That's better for me. Thanks a lot. Yeah, okay. World is evolving. A lot of technology issues and shifts, and technology playing a very, very great impact. AI. I was at the FIT conference. I was asked to speak on regulations around data protection and all of that. And I was saying to the team or to the conference then that beyond regulations, beyond government regulations, there's a need for self-preservation. Companies must begin to define and desire and how best to ensure that even with AI, employees are protected. And so it's so important that even in this day and age, that there is an increasing rise of employee importance, employee importance globally. The idea that you are here to get the job done, you have been paid to get the job done, is off the windows. You don't have those conversations anymore to say to an employee, I paid you to do the work, just get the job done. Especially post-COVID, being able to have conversations around beyond transactions to relationships are critical to be able to get the job done. We also see the impacts around well-being and productivity, engagement and retention. We know without a shadow of doubt where employees feel a sense of being part of a system, employees feel that their opinions count, Employees are able and better to achieve more in terms of productivity because they feel that they are part of the system and can give their best to achieve company's objectives in an environment of trust. And data shows and points to the fact that where well-being operations exist in high levels, that companies that have these policies and practices outperform their peers. Our analysis points to the fact that employees are 200% more likely to recommend your company if they believe it is psychologically and emotionally healthy place to work. Our analysis also points to the fact that where you have a psychologically and emotionally healthy place to work, 75% of that organization is most likely to be more innovative than where a company is not psychologically and emotionally healthy place to work. And we know that innovation is key for what we do, for us to be relevant in this day and age, for us to be relevant and at cutting edge in the next 20 years, we need to be innovative. And so, for instance, our survey says, I can ask management any question or reasonable question and get a straight answer. Management is approachable. If management recognizes honest mistakes as part of doing business. You want employees who believe that management would recognize honest mistakes as part of doing business because it enables them to go above and beyond to achieve those objectives that are critical for your organization. We also see that there is a clear correlation between employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction. Employees are happy at work, they have great pride in what they do, they are able to impact and engage customers better. Customers are able to do more business with your organization that invariably impacts on return on investments for your business. And this is a clear fact about the fact that great workplaces outperform the market that we see globally for companies that we work with. And so what is employee well-being? It's a holistic concept that includes physical, I guess that's financial, psychological, and social traits, ensuring employees feel happy, healthy, secure, and supported in their work and personal life. My apologies, that slide was a little bit cut off. And so for us, we see well-being around 6 key views, or the model looks at well-being that is interpersonal, mental, work environment, financial security, work-life balance, and fulfillment at work. So it is a science and an art, because we have data that points to the fact that where employees are happy at work, they are able to do better. Their best work is where they feel part of the organization and can contribute their quota. We're able to measure engagement levels with various surveys. Our Trust Index survey measures employee levels of engagement and satisfaction at work. For us, trust is around 5 dimensions. Is management credible? The senior leaders understand the business. Do they know what the future of the business looks like? The senior leaders embody the values that we preach. We say, for instance, that integrity is a core value, or it's part of the practices that we have. Do we see it lived in the lives of leaders? We measure respect. Post-COVID, respect has become one of the most important aspects around our measurements. Employees crying out to be recognized. Employees crying out to say that they deserve to be given a fair hearing at work. We measure fairness to say the employees feel a sense of fairness at work. Do they feel that their opinions count, that management provides them an enabling environment to be successful? We measure pride. Pride is so important. And for pride, we see pride across 3 levels. Personal pride, team pride, and organizational pride. And we say employees that have great pride are the ones that are best equipped to withstand competition in the market space. They're also the ones that are best equipped to meet customer needs in the market space. So science and arts, we are able to begin to define and say to us that beyond, there's a conversation around how impactful is strategy, where without culture, without the right culture. And so being able to see how we can manage and marry, better is a better word, marry strategy and culture will do a great work for organizations. And so our research approach, which is based on the Great Place to Work model, I talked about that, sees well-being around 5 dimensions also too: mental and emotional support, sense of purpose, personal support, financial health, and meaningful connections. This basically speaks to our model I talked about earlier on, those 5 models. At Great Place to Work, we have what is called the 9 practice areas. The 9 practice areas that leaders must have understanding around. I might not be able to fully call all of them together, but for instance, welcoming, being able to developing employees, Listening is one of those most challenging areas around our 9 practice areas. Being able to listen to your colleagues, being able to thank them for what they do and achieve. One of those 9 practice areas, being able to celebrate them for who they are and just being at work, a great place to work. And so for us, our trust dimensions have been helpful in connecting the dots around well-being. So in terms of respect and fairness, we're talking about mental and emotional support. Pride talks about the sense of purpose. Fairness and credibility, personal support. Fairness, financial health. Camaraderie, meaningful connections. And so we did an analysis around great workplaces in Nigeria to look at what mental and emotional support looks like. And we found out that at great workplaces, so we have our survey that is deployed to companies, employees. So for us, trust into 5 dimensions, 5 dimensions into 15 focus areas into 60 statements. So we've been able to put together some statements around mental and emotional health that speaks and supports what that entails. So for instance, our highest statements around emotional health is management genuinely seeks and responds to suggestions and ideas. We say that workers in this day and age are the most intelligent that have ever existed since the beginning of work, because these are people who constantly are reviewing, understanding, trying to understand, gain insights across the globe, local insights, gain insights across globally. So when they come to you with ideas, when they come to you with suggestions, you're better off as an organization to listen to those suggestions and ideas and provide adequate feedback. Our survey allows us to ask 2 questions. 1, management is competent at running this business. Another one says, management keeps me informed about what I need to do to get the job done. For some companies that are great workplaces, generally average score between even those 2 statements, you could see a gap of about 10%. Between employees say management is competent to management keeping me informed. For non-great workplaces, the gap could be as high as 30%. But we said to you this morning that competence is driven by effective execution, and execution cannot hold without effective communication. And so you cannot say that we are competent at what we do, but if you don't keep employees informed regularly about what they need to do to get the job done, then all your strategic intents will probably fall down through those holes. So we saw that with regards to mental and emotional support, people avoid politicking and backstabbing as ways to get things done. It's one of our biggest challenges in Nigeria and across Africa. Also, too, this is a psychologically and an emotionally healthy place to work. Those comments around you are paid to do the job, just get it done, are comments of the old, better ways exist in this day and age. Like we say, a good place to work. Employee work is it's a gift work. It's not a commodity that you begin to basically trade with it. It's being able to provide values around what employees do to the organization. Around sense of purpose, our highest statements were, I'm proud to tell people I work here. Great workplaces have great pride in saying that they work in these organizations. So kudos to the teams or different teams around great workplaces being able to create great sense of pride. When employees have great sense of pride in what they do, then they are able to better engage your customers and provide the needed support in terms of achieving more returns on those sales. When I look at what we accomplished, I feel a sense of pride, also one of those elements that we see. In terms of personal support, management keeps me informed about issues and changes. Like I mentioned earlier, for some companies, especially non-great workplaces, being kept informed, low in scores around those areas. Management is approachable. Those areas, some of those places where we see challenges. Management involves people in decisions that affect their job is something that we want to be able to see more. But because we see that employees are crying out for more responsibility in the workspace, being able to give them more responsibility and to achieve those goals and objectives makes them feel they're part of the organization and they belong to achieve those objectives in an environment of trust. Financial health is also around our scores. The highest scores was management is honest and ethical in its business practices. Promotion goes to those who deserve them, and I feel I receive a fair share of profits made by the organization, some of the challenges that we see. But like we always say, it's always a communication game. around salaries. There's always a communication game around profit share, so the employees are have a better understanding of what the position is for the organization. With regards to meaningful connections, our highest scores were when you join the organization, you're made to feel welcome. People are treated fairly regardless of their gender. Management recognizes honest mistakes as part of doing business. Employees would need to make some honest mistakes for us to be innovative. Employees will need to make some honest mistakes. And so we see for great workplaces, they have this as an opportunity for learning. To say, okay, this is a mistake has been made. How can we learn from it so that we can move forward? So they begin to document those mistakes with a view to hopefully being able to correct those mistakes as we go along. So we did analysis over a 4-year period and look at those 5 drivers of employee well-being. I think this graph next on this slide provides a better understanding. It will seem that even amongst great workplaces, employee perceptions are dipping. Post-COVID, where it was lower to where it was around 2022, 2023, we begin to see a slight dip around employees' perceptions. I know the last 1 year in Nigeria has been generally quite challenging for organizations. Probably the reasons behind that dip, but something that we need to look at to ensure that this goes higher, not dip from where it was 2 years ago. And so basically with our findings, we see that our highest findings was a sense of purpose, employees having great sense of pride, but the biggest opportunities for growth around mental and financial, emotional support, financial health. These are just scores and what they imply. We see in terms of a comparative analysis that the gap between mental health and financial support suggests that stress related to pay fairness may be affecting well-being. We know what has happened last year and in Nigeria, so I probably imagine that's one of the reasons why it's impacting. But invariably, it affects mental health, employee well-being, where you are not able to meet those basic objectives in terms of even, there's somebody, I think it was the former Minister of Information, I think Education, my apologies, that said that when the middle class is beginning to struggle, she used the word that said it's not really very good, right? And so hopefully we are able to take this back also to our various workplaces, to see how we can impact on improving employee mental health through what they take in terms of pay home for their operations. In terms of a correlation, we see correlations between personal support and employee retention. Employee retention, like I mentioned, with perceived managerial support, may be less likely to stay long-term. So you might have a great employee has good levels of pride, but if we don't have support around managerial support, there's a saying that people don't leave organizations, they leave managers. And so being able to have the right support will be necessary for employees, even in these trying times. We see also correlations around employees stay because of purpose, but may leave due to financial dissatisfaction. Fair management decisions are critical factors in engagement and cooperation. Because of time, this is going to be available, and so I'm happy to share these slides after this session. Because of time, I'm going to have these quotes. I think the most profound quote I've ever heard with regards to employee engagements, employee wellness, came from Temi Daly from Sterling Bank, where she said, "I was given a blank check to create and build an enabling culture that will create the limitless career opportunities for employees, which will in turn impact on the bank's growth and profitability." Their claim, this is to say that when employees are better engaged, employees feel a sense of greater levels of employee well-being, that they're most likely to impact positively on the business. We also have one from our dear friends at First Bank, where we say we support mental and physical financial well-being of our employees, as we believe that they are deeply interconnected to their productivity and contributions to the sustainability of the bank. At DHL Group, we deeply care about our people and their health and well-being. Our people come first as we inspire to be a great place to work for all. A number of times we see where a company reports financial growth and they say to us, it's down to our customer strategy. There was a time I think I pointed out to Muyiwa once. I said to Muyiwa, customer strategy is people's strategy, right? So maybe we should begin to say it's down to the people's strategy that we have in place at your organization. At Great Place to Work, we are building a community of great workplaces. And we say, imagine if 50% of organizations in Nigeria are great workplaces. Imagine the number of happier employees and their families. Employees go back home excited about work because they're happy at work. They go back home and there's peace at home. Imagine the number of healthier breadwinners. Imagine the improved quality of life. Imagine the levels of employee satisfaction. Even also imagine the Nigerian economy. I would imagine if we have employees that are happy at work, where it's impacting on productivity. All of that invariably will impact on the economy. And so there is a clarion call this morning to the people in this room to say that it's a charge for us that we build and improve our employee well-being. And so it's beyond just the fun of it or making them feel good. We have data that points to the fact that your company invariably will be much better. Join us now and become great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give him another round of applause. I'm sure he deserves it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Employees don't leave organizations, they leave managers. Very candid statement. I read a book probably about 17, 18 years ago of a research done in 37,000 US organizations that arrived at the same conclusion. That when people leave, 67, 68% of them leave because of their bosses. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. He said competence is driven by effective implementation, effective execution. I wanted to just take the privilege in introducing our keynote speaker this morning, the distinguished Commissioner, Professor Akin Abayomi. Now, you have a profile of the distinguished professor in the copy of the program that you are holding. And of course, you know that he is a professor of internal medicine. I wanted to just introduce him as the angel from God who helped to lead us through COVID successfully in Lagos. Let us welcome the distinguished professor. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, let me tender my apologies for coming a little bit late. There's so much happening at the same time. One has to try and multitask in multiple physical and digital dimensions. I think that the protocol has been well established, and I think we're running behind time. So let me just thank all of you for not only setting up this conference, but also inviting me to come and share some perspectives with you. And I can see my colleague right at the back, Larry Odushote, who the former commissioner for energy, who made sure that I attended this conference. Now I have a confession. The theme of this conference totally bamboozled me. And why is that? Because I normally like to think in the mind of the person that is developing the thematic paradigm of the conference and try and understand exactly what they're trying to say or what they're trying to get across. And I examined what we are doing in the public service. I reflected deeply on my own experience in private sector and academia. And all I can say is that as an individual, I am a victim of substandard or suboptimal well-being profiling of the workspace. And so this conference is very germane because it's not something, it's one of those softer topics that we don't particularly pay attention to, and yet we expect our staff to be super productive. I wrote and I developed 2 presentations. I did one and I put that aside. And then I started another one last night. And this morning, I'm putting it aside. And as I was listening to the previous speaker, I realized how complex this topic is. And so I'm going to just touch on a few subjects, and I'm not going to use any slides because I want to have a conversation. And one of the important things that jumps out at us when we reflect on the well-being of the employee is that sense of belonging. Am I just, one of the employees, or do I belong in this system? Am I looked upon as a critical member of the ecosystem in which I work? And that doesn't actually depend on your hierarchy within the organization, because everybody plays a very important part. And so if you actually feel a sense of belonging and that you're doing what you really feel you should be doing in that organization, then as they say, when you wake up in the morning, you look forward to going to work because you have a sense of achievement, you have a sense of contribution, you have a sense of dignity and pride. And so when we as government look into this space, there are so many dimensions, but I think you asked me to come here to speak. If I could speak around all the topics that contribute to the holistic sense of well-being in a workspace, we'll be here for a long time. And the presentation we just heard reflected on so many of these dimensions. But health. So your health as an employee, we have to make sure that you are a healthy person and that you are in a fit state to make the contribution for which you've been engaged to do. But at the same time, we don't want the workspace to contribute negatively to your health and well-being. And so the workspace is a complex environment from the moment you leave your home till the moment you get to your office, if you are doing a physical job, or if you are in a virtual space, that connectivity is important. So we look at even issues around commuting, transportation. How do you get to work? When you get to work, what is the comfort level of your work environment? What is the government doing in terms of policy around occupational health? What is the government doing about recreational spaces around your work environment? Do you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to work? And then you are dredging the fact that as you knock off, you're going to be spending another 2 or 3 hours commuting to get back home. So, government's role is very holistic. Our job as government is to improve the livability of a system, of a city, to ensure that when you are in the space of a city, whether you're living with your family or you're working or you're commuting, that it is easy for you to be in that environment. I have people that I know very closely that live in Lagos, commute back and forth. Some of them work abroad, and some of them live in Nigeria. Some people live abroad and work in Nigeria. And I often ask some of these people, what is it like when you leave Lagos and you go to some cities where seemingly it is much easier to get around? The answer is always the livability is a key factor to your employability. And the happiness that you enjoy as an individual is key to your performance at work. So this government is working really hard in the area of transportation, in the area of workspace comfort, in the area of regulation, and specifically in the area of health, where recently we passed an executive order that defines the mandatory nature of health insurance for all citizens of Lagos State in compliance with the National Health Insurance Authority Act. We're using that opportunity to regulate the entire health insurance workspace in Lagos, not just around the social health insurance schemes of Ilera Eco that we keep promoting for Lagosians, but the law now says that everybody in Lagos and Nigeria, as a matter of fact, must own a social health insurance scheme. We know that in Lagos, there are multiple individuals that own private health insurance. And so how do we create a public-private partnership between Lagos State government and the HMOs and the organizations that are providing these health insurance schemes for our citizens? Not only to make sure that they comply with the law, but that we're able to regulate how health insurance is adjudicated in Lagos. Many people are realizing that the packages that they're procuring don't give them the satisfaction that they want when they need healthcare services. So as a government, we need to get into that space, and we need to make sure that those tiers of insurance that you purchase, first of all, are in compliance with the fact that you need a baseline social health insurance, and that anything other than that is a top-up. But that these top-up insurances all come under a regulatory mechanism whereby we can ensure that the tiers that you are buying actually reflect the type of care that you can get when you need it. So an operational guideline is coming out very soon, which follows the executive order that His Excellency promulgated about 6 months ago around the concept of mandatory nature of health insurance. It's important that employees understand that they must invest in the health of their staff, and that there can't be many hierarchical strata that stigmatize between different workforce grades, and that there's only one standard of healthcare delivery. There is the medical best practices of healthcare. In Lagos, we're trying to avoid healthcare for the poor and healthcare for the rich. There's a standard of care, and whether you're a low-tier employee or whether you're a top executive, everybody deserves the standard of care. And that's what we're trying to do as a government in Lagos, to make sure that everybody has access to universal healthcare coverage, and that the workspace is not only conducive to your productivity, but it enhances your well-being and your welfare and your happiness as an individual, knowing full well that you're contributing to society and you're looking forward to performing your task as an employee. And so, as a government, I've had, as a critical member of cabinet in terms of the health, I reflect on the COVID era and look very critically at what transpired. It seemed like a haze to many of us now, but during COVID, it was a time when I had to put my hat to the side as a public health specialist and realize that I was a member of cabinet whose main function was to ensure the health of the Lagos state economy. And so we could have come out with all the heavy-handed public health strategies. We could have said, oh, we must ensure that everybody with COVID is isolated, and that if you're this, you can't do that, and we need to lock down to do this and to reduce the transmissibility of this dangerous pathogen. But we soon realized, or I realized very quickly, that my role in government was not necessarily around public health efficiency and public health principles. My role in government was to make sure that the economy of Lagos was healthy. And so I had to relax on the public health principles to give Lagos the space to breathe economically, and at the same time balance the public health initiatives that were trying to contain the importation of the virus and the communal spread to our citizens. It was a steep learning curve, and I think that's one of the reasons why Lagos did so well, because we were able to find that balance between public health and economic health to make sure that the city of Lagos was able to continue to breathe economically, because the collateral damage of a heavy-handed public health response was actually going to be more severe than the consequence of COVID itself. And so these are the kinds of situations that a flexible government, a government that's dynamic, a government that understands the pulse of the city, is able to make under such difficult situations. And so now we as Lagos, we realize that something is happening in Lagos. We realize that there's a pulse out there that we can feel, particularly around the Christmas period, when we talk about this massive influx of people. We talk about Lagos, London, Paris, Milan, New York. Everybody's adding Lagos to that concept. So Lagos is becoming an international cosmopolitan city. And so as government and as private sector, we need to come together. And I think that this conference is actually very poignant in that regard. It has made me think deeply, and I want to thank the organizers, because up till now, I haven't really reflected so much on this area of the welfare of the workspace and the well-being of our employees, because we're focusing on so many issues, crises. Every day there's something new in Lagos. But if we're going to become a globally competitive megacity, and according to the Lagos 2052 Lagos State Development Plan, which is a 30-year development plan, I think Lagos is the only governed space in Africa that has a 30-year development plan. One of our targets is to become the model megacity of Africa. The city that has one of the highest levels of comfort and livability. A city whose GDP is on the constant rise. A city where there is security, where there is ease of commuting, where there is security of health, of power, of water, of recreation, where our kids and our families can prosper and feel comfortable. And so it's a multi-dimensional approach, and government has a very significant role to play here in terms of policies, guidelines, and legislations. And so I'm going to take the messages from here. In fact, I've pushed my manifest further down by 2 hours because I looked at your program and I felt that I needed to really listen to some of the concepts that are going to be presented here. So as you thought I was going to come here and impart to you, well, the good news that I'm going to impart to you is that I'm here with listening ears. I'm here to actually take something away from this conference and start to promote more attention towards the welfare and the well-being of our workspace, the comfort, the flexibility. We know that we are a gender-balanced government. We have a he for she executive. Our cabinet is very well balanced across the genders. We have programs around disability. We have programs around domestic violence. We have programs around wellness of mental alacrity. We're building infrastructure that deal with these kinds of issues. We're working around the clock in the sectors of health, transportation, agriculture. In the agricultural sector, we're building a massive food security hub between Ikorodu and Ekpe to make sure that Lagos, which is not an agricultural environment, is able to take advantage of its expertise, both in the business sector, in the private sector, and the academia, working alongside government to make sure that we can harness food security, bring in food from different parts of Nigeria, from different parts of West Africa, and add value to ensure that we have a constant supply of food and a constant price towards the acquisition of food materials for our citizens. And so, multimodal transport systems over water, rail, road, expanded rail systems, air. We're trying to build a second airport on the Lekki axis. Lagos is expanding by the second. And sometimes we are the victims of our own success, as we find now that the attractive commercial environment of Lagos is ensuring that there is a constant inbound migration of people seeking the lights, the splendor, and the commerce of Lagos State, seemingly the security of a megacity. And so, once again, I really applaud the organizers. You have given me a lot of time to reflect. Normally, it doesn't take me this long to present or prepare a presentation. I did two. I didn't present any of them because I felt that, I hadn't really spent enough time trying to understand the concept of what we're discussing here today. So I'm here really on a learning curve myself. I really enjoyed the first presentation. I have my notes. I have our own idea of what government is trying to do. I think Lagos State is doing quite well, but we're not there yet. If we're going to achieve in 30 years, taking Lagos to be the model megacity of Africa, to be able to compete globally. When we talk about Lagos, we should be talking about Lagos synonymously with Hong Kong or Singapore or any of those great megacities around the world, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, where life is easy, where people are happy, where the individual has security around their family, has security to get to work, feels a sense of achievement and belonging, and where the government ensures that nobody is left behind, working hand in hand with the private sector. And I just want to say that we keep talking about the success of COVID in Lagos. And I'm not sure if everyone realizes what a significant role the private sector played in Lagos' success. As from the moment of the index case through the first wave, our numbers started to exponentially rise, way beyond the capacity of the public sector to manage. And if it wasn't for the deep collaboration between government and private sector, which escalated our ability to diagnose, our ability to contain, our ability to move people around, the logistics, the supply chains, the communication, all of that was supported by the incredible minds that we have in Lagos State. We set up multiple think tanks, which ensured that we had the sharpest minds in Lagos contributing to the Lagos State COVID-19 response. I personally was extremely proud of Lagos and Nigeria as a flag bearer of the ability to rise to such a challenge that was about to threaten both the economy and the lives of our citizens. It was a pleasure being part of the COVID response, but I want to say that the COVID response in Lagos had a huge and dramatic input from the private sector. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thank you for this wonderful topic that you've chosen for this conference. Regards from the Cabinet and regards from His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Commissioner for the Lagos State Ministry of Health for that brilliant presentation, that brilliant keynote address, and thank you for all the work that you've done, all the work you've been doing, and thank you for saving us from COVID-19. Also, I'd like us to, as we proceed, I'm sure everyone here would agree that we learned a lot from that presentation, and just the fact that you had mentioned that you did not one, not two, and then you came today to finally give us a completely different keynote address because you valued us so much, and we truly, really appreciate you. Please, I'd like us to please get up and please put our hands together respectfully for the Honorable Commissioner for the Lagos State Ministry of Health, Professor Akin Abayomi. Thank you very much, sir. Today we'll be having lots and lots of interesting conversation here, and our first panel today will be speaking on designing wellness programs that work and lessons from great workplaces. And on this panel, we've got some truly brilliant professionals, and I'll be calling them in no particular order today. I'll be calling on the head of Human Resource Department at FSDH Merchant Bank. Please put your hands together as she comes up. Thank you very much. Her name is Olubukola Lanipekun Lawal. Also, the Director for Organization and Human Resources at Lafarge Africa, Gbemiga Owolabi. Please put your hands together as he comes up. Also on this panel, we've got Olanike Martins, the Chief People Officer at Premium Trust Bank. Please put your hands together for her.
Speaking, I will be moderating a little bit this first panel. But most importantly, let me appreciate the BusinessDay, for putting this together. Again, in partnership with Great Place to Work and Philip Consulting and a few others as well that'll be supported. That'll be all of these. efforts. Clearly, I have benefited a little bit from the presentation made earlier by Fred, rather. And I also like a little bit some of the insights that he also threw and is into it. But let me also appreciate the Commissioner of Health in Lagos State, Mr. COVID himself, because again, for the huge response that will be at that particular point in time. If he hadn't been returned again, it'll be for the second time, perhaps maybe Lagos will have gone. That is a political statement, but again, I think it's just important to mention that. Let me also acknowledge the fact that you chose a little bit to stay behind even after your keynote address. Please, a round of applause a little bit to the Prof. It's quite unusual to have such level of humility a little bit demonstrated by government functionaries, particularly after delivering a little bit their presentation, to the extent that they want to also listen a little bit to the private sector, so that you can take that back again a little bit to the cabinet. I think that deserves a little bit another commendation. So a round of applause a little bit to the Prof. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Personally, I have benefited a little bit from all of the presentation. I benefited a little bit from Fred's presentation. And again, particularly Prof. a little bit, I did two presentations and didn't even refer a little bit to the presentation. I ended up a little bit speaking a little bit from the ads. I think it was very brilliant a little bit delivery for me. I think that was really good. But before going into the session, I don't know what the publisher of BusinessDay has been using. I've known him a little bit from afar and over the last 20 years. It looks the same. I don't know how many of you agree with me. So whatever it is, maybe there will be an opportunity a little bit for you to come and share with us, particularly some of us that are especially endowed, so that we can also key into such recipe. But again, thank you so much. So we get a little into it very quickly. Again, we have a little bit distinguished panel members that have already been introduced. But before we get into the questions, I'd just like to mention one or two things about First Bank, where I represent today. Interestingly, last year we won a little bit legendary award. Having been a great workplace and for 5 consecutive years. I think First Bank deserves a round of applause if you do not mind. It's not easy. Again, we listened a little to Fred earlier. If you know the kind of number that we have in First Bank, you will acknowledge it really. In terms of FTE alone, we have excess of 8,000. So that is exclusively non-FTEs. So you can then, you can connect the dots, particularly for the HR professional that we have in the room, that will have a little bit over 8,000, full-time employees, and yet for back-to-back 5 years consecutive, you are, accorded a little bit great workplace is really not a joke. It's a whole lot of work. But having said that, looking at the program of event today and the theme of this event, I think it's important to also acknowledge a few things that we do. We're extremely passionate about employee well-being. Extremely passionate about that. I won't bore you with so much, but again, I'll just drop a few tips before we get into the presentation proper, so that we can also benefit a little bit from our panel members that we have here today. I joined the bank 13 years ago, and I met a clinic sitting at least in that office. I don't know how many organizations have such. So I have a medical doctor, he's on my payroll at full-time, and he's been at least on that payroll for over 25 years. That was before I joined the bank. So, but aside that, if you look at what happened post-COVID, it wasn't so fashionable pre-COVID to hear about mental health, right? Particularly in the workplace, particularly when you then look at the workforce demographics that we're dealing with today. Jen says, before you push them a little bit in terms of work pressure, they talk about, it's affecting my work, my mental health, isn't it? Or you can't relate to that. So they get into the bathroom and they are like almost teary high and the rest of them. And even you as the HR manager, you are now cross-relating between productivity, performance, and also managing mental health of individual. You are wondering whether maybe you are doing what is right or not. Again, we have significantly elevated this particular initiative. We have a robust program around wellness program that caters to the needs of all the 8,000 staff, over 8,000 staff that we have in the bank. Beyond that, their spouses and children up to maximum of 4. And again, I kid you not, that's what we do. So we have big budgets, medical spend to cater to our employee wellness. And why do we do this? We have one mantra. A healthy workforce is a productive workforce. When you get into any of our First Bank locations, if you mention that, people can connect with it. Because we notice clearly that you cannot drive performance or productivity when you don't have a healthy workforce. And that again, Alibi, give me so much joy when Alibi Prof was speaking earlier, that his responsibility is to remove his hat as a professor of internal medicine and begin to look at the health and the wellness of Lagosians, which is a much more broader scope. So once again, thank you so much, Prof. Alibi, for dropping that. And I'm trusting that you'll be able to benefit Alibi from the private sector. So let's get into it. So to the distinguished panel members here, and I will start with my first question with, just give me a couple of minutes so that I do not direct questioning inappropriately to individuals. So my first question, we go to the correct. That is Mr. Gbenga Owolabi, and who is the organization and human resources director for Lafarge. So I will start with my question. What are the key elements that makes a wellness program truly effective?
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for the audience. It's great being here. Since it started with a bragging right of, but I'm not going to go into the full story, but just to note that Lafarge Africa PLC is also a great place to work. They're certified, okay? So, but I mean, look, yeah, great theme that the organizers have raised, because sometimes we tend to forget the intangible part of employee satisfaction, or especially during the life cycle. But it's very key. And that's why you see most of the Gen Z talks about mental health. I don't know whether you get that in your office. You pass by and somebody is saying, look, this job is affecting my mental health, all sorts of things. But it starts from the purpose, and I think Tamiri talked about it, in the sense that when you want to design a well-being program, you need to also start taking into consideration that, look, what is the purpose of the organization itself? Because employees have to be able to speak to the purpose of the organization and say, look, this is something that I'm used to. This is a place where I want to be, where you start. In Lafarge, we talked about building progress for people and the planet. So, and it also gets linked to the trust index of the organization. Because if you says you are building progress for the people and the planet, let's leave people for the meantime, but let's say the planet, and your production plants are producing dust into the environment, and they don't see you stopping it, whether it's going to be a loss, they will never connect to your organization, because whatever you say, they say, look, you say you're protecting the planet, but we are putting dust into the atmosphere. And we've seen that where we shut down one of our plants in Ewekoro for 6 months, because we said, look, this is above the standard, the threshold that even not Nigeria, it was still below Nigeria threshold, but what the group actually asked us to operate with. So it has to be something that is related to the purpose of the organization. And of course, you have to define the goals. Why do you really want to do this? Why do I need it? We started something before we came to Great Place to Work to say, look, come and check. Let's check whether, come and do your survey and see whether our employees can actually connect to this organization. So it was a well-laid plan in terms of what's the goals, what are we actually looking at that we wanted to achieve. The second one is about leadership support, which is very critical, because no matter what you want to do, if you don't get leadership support, and when I talk about leadership support, I'm not talking about the CEO or the ESCO members, but also the line managers in the place. Because HR can design whatever beautiful best practices all over the world, and then the line manager messes it up. The line manager that doesn't want you to run an hybrid, which you have designed. The line manager that doesn't want you to go and attend a fitness session. The line manager that doesn't want to give you time to even have a work-life balance, so they can actually spoil it for you. So leadership support is very critical in getting it done. Now, the other bit of it is also about the program itself. You can design and say, look, what do I want to focus on? You just take one part of well-being and say, look, that works. And I think, so Tommy talked about it, when he said that, look, even if you have a well-laid plan, okay, you're doing everything when it comes to your employees' emotional being, mental health beings, but then the composition, the financial part of it is terrible. There's not going to be any connection to it. So when you're designing the plan, you need to take into consideration all these elements. And that is why most of the time when we go through engagement survey, you see some of those questions. People don't know that they interconnect to each other. You can't be seeing this and saying, okay, you also, and it is worse here, and you are getting a higher score here because it's employees. And you're looking at the perception of what is happening in the organization. So physical, emotional, mental, financial, even social well-being. What's your plan? How do you design it so that they interconnect with each other? The other bit of it is, who do you actually develop these things for? Do you develop it for them or you develop it with them? Because when you start a program that the employees doesn't connect to, it's absolute waste of money. I used to work in my previous life before joining Lafarge. And in my office, I look down at the courtyard and I see people, doing fitness sessions. And we used to spend almost about 400,000 naira every month, which is significant then. But, we started with maybe 40 people, then it started dwindling to 5 people because people are just not connecting to what you want to do. So it has to be something that the employees themselves are the ones that you design them with. You understand? They will come up with their own different ideas. But how do I get it to work? Because at the end of the day, you also need to start measuring. Do you want to measure retention? Because you started something.
I'm sure you will get to measure it. Thank you so much. You have so much and be loaded. Thank you so much.
Let me just finish this one. Sorry to cut you up. And I think it's also about the measurement. That's just my last point on the measurement. You have to use data to measure it. And that's why, my recommendation is always go and get an external body to run a survey so that people can actually tell you the truth about what is happening. And then you use the data to know whether it is working or, what do you need to change and improve. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much, baby girl. Thank you so much. You deserve a round of applause. Thank you so much. So I'll go straight a little bit to Olanike Martins. Thank you. So again, my second question a little bit to you is, how did your organization identify the right wellness initiatives to implement? How were you able to do that?
Thank you so much, Miwa. And we may not have the bragging right of First Bank and Lafarge. We started about 3 years ago, Premium Trust Bank, and we're glad to say that a second year of operations, we got certified at the Great Place to Work, Platinum category, and we're so proud of it. And it's just a testament of the work that's been done. And I'll jump in where Benga stopped and said, you have to build it with them. It's actually with them. And how do we start this? Wellness is encompassing. Wellness is very personal. I can't build a wellness initiative for you. You have to build it with me. And that's why we use what we call the EIP approach, employee involvement and participation. This comes with our 4 phases. And the first phase is we will have what we call the wellness risk assessment. I want to know what is about your health life, your financial disposition, what is your psychological state. And so we develop an evaluation tool that enables us to gather that data. Then we don't stop at that data, we probe further. So we come up with an holistic survey, and the survey covers the total well-being of our employees. And we ask simple questions like, do you have a best friend at work? Because it matters. The emotional state of an employee matters. The social strata of an employee matters. And that helps us to build the initiatives. So we just don't stop at building, then we measure. Just like Benga said, it's very important. We have what we call wellness goals. So you start with your individualized wellness goal, which we now put together.
I'll come to measurements.
To measurements. And so, so it's very important. And finally, wellness is beyond initiative. Wellness is a culture. So we weave it into our daily lives. We have things like you have daily stretches on your desk. We have Wednesday wellness tips that we tell you, communication about wellness. We let you know what is going on within the public space. So thank you to our Noble Commissioner. It's nice having you here, sir. So as you push out this information, and I think more information needs to go out to HR people so they can get their people aware what's going on out there. Because everybody needs wellness education. And you need to know that wellness just is beyond health. Is also financial. So when Otame was talking about how is our paycheck, I can probably say our paycheck is good because it's part of the strategy of the organization. Because if you don't have your people have that sense of wellness, sense of well-being, that platform to be the best of themselves, then how will you be productive? So I will leave Benga to take that to the next question. Thank you.
Excellent response. Thank you so much. Can you give a round of applause? You can see that the panel members are really fired up. Thank you so much. Now, I'll go straight a little bit to the top panelist. That's the Olupo Lanipepo. And I ask this question. What roles does leadership play in creating a culture of well-being in your organization?
Thank you, Miwa.
What's the role of leadership there?
Thank you. Thank you, Miwa. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here. So leadership. Of course, the role of leadership is critical. It's pivotal to organization well-being. And I will speak, I don't have bragging rights. We don't have bragging rights, right? But one thing I will say is FSH has been in existence for over 30 years. And there are some, initiatives that the owners of the business thought necessary and we still have in place till now. So I think you should clap for FSDH. Thank you very much. So talking about the place of leadership, leadership is pivotal to organizational well-being because leadership sets the tone at the top and gives direction. Now, if the leadership in any organization does not see wellness to be important, it will not happen in any organization. And also, if leadership deem it fit to have well-being program in the organization and it does not cascade across the different layers of leadership in the organization, it dies at the top. And so it requires commitment. It requires deliberate attempt by the leadership at the top to ensure that well-being and wellness flows through the different status of the organization. And I'm going to share some of the things we've done at FSDH. Now, we thought it necessary, especially post-COVID, we joined Great Place to Work about 2 years ago, and since we joined, we've been certified as a great place to work, an organization that's a great place to work. We thought it necessary to join Great Place to Work, to participate at the time, because we felt there were a lot of things we were doing that was not known, right? And we needed to actually make known what we stand for as an organization. And ever since we joined, we've been certified, and we've been receiving awards at different categories. Now, we felt that beyond setting KPIs, like was mentioned earlier, beyond profitability and ensuring that the numbers are actually growing as expected by the shareholders of the business, the people that are going to ensure those numbers happen must be connected to the goal set and must actually have presence of mind to deliver on the numbers. And for us to do that, we must look at not just the physical well-being, so you're able to provide means of transportation for your employees to get to work, but you must also look at their emotional well-being, look at their psychological well-being. The financial well-being is also important. And so we began to introduce different initiatives within the organization to ensure that the employees are engaged, to ensure that they are present at work, to ensure that they are connected. Especially, like I said, since COVID, we still operate to some extent the hybrid work culture. And so we're not always all present at work at the same time. And because of that, we must stay connected whilst we're not at work. So whilst our employees at work, they're connected. Whilst they're working remotely, we're connected. So we have periodic employee engagement programs that ensure that, everybody's connected, whether you're physically present or you're remotely connected. We are all listening to the same thing. We are all sharing in the joy of working together. And we see, the importance of working together in the same workplace. Some of the other things that we've done at FSDH, which have been promoted by our leaders at the leadership, and everybody is holding on to it, is we ensure that the regular, improvement of learning of leaders to understand what wellness means and why it is important for them to promote it within their within their teams, their own teams, or areas of influence, or areas of leadership. They're promoting wellness. So, for example, I think it was, you mentioned earlier, Director of Lafabimbo, that was saying that, ensuring and allowing the employees to take their time when necessary. So we're looking at leave management, leave utilization. You want to go and attend to something came up in your family, you need to go and attend to, because the truth is, and as an employee that is mentally sound, that can be productive. If an employee has need not to be at work, and as a team lead, you are insisting that that employee should come, the employee will be physically present, but the sense of presence is not there, sense of mind is not there, and it's not able to deliver whatever it is you might have saddled that employee with. So training of leaders is also important. We also established that for them to appreciate what well-being of our people mean. And we've seen our leaders, across different layers, right, appreciating the importance of the well-being of our people and ensuring that they give the necessary support to all the programs that we've put in place. Now, beyond us having engagement programs, beyond ensuring that we train up the leaders of different levels and even the upcoming leaders, because one thing is for you to be a follower today, you must also understand what leadership means. So when you get to that role, you are able to give the necessary support also to your team members that are coming up after you. The other side of things that we also do is we also ensure that there's because well-being and wellness of the organization is evolving. It's not static. So you must always, we're looking for new ways on periodic basis to ensure that we are not just holding on to what we did last year. And we have different programs lined up this year to ensure that from the level of leadership, from the HR point of view, we presented to leaders, to our leadership, and leadership has already embraced it. And we're communicating that and ensuring that goes.
Thank you so much.
That's go wrong. Thanks, yeah.
Please, let's give her a round of applause. Please, let's give her a round of applause. You can see that the panel members are really, really fired up. Thank you so much. We still have loads of questions, and that we enable you and drill further down and be on that first question. So, from consulting perspective, because again, that is the only consultant that we have among the panel members. And if you also, the panelist number one, that's Bemiga, as well as panelist number two, Olani, can be alluded to the fact that you don't create this initiative for employees, but you create it with them. So my question to you, Tracy, is how do you ensure that wellness initiative align with employees' actual need, not something that you just bring out and be from a sling or from HR literature, or based on the fact that, Lafarge does it, First Bank does it, or FXDH, they do it and the rest of them. So how do you ensure that this initiative around wellness truly connects to the needs and the needs of the people? From consulting perspective, please educate us.
Good morning, and good morning, everyone. It's a delight and honor to be here. This is a very important question. And one of the mistakes that we've seen organizations make is designing wellness initiatives from the boardroom. And when I say from the boardroom, with management, without taking in the feedback or input of the employees. In actual sense, when designing wellness initiatives, you should go to the breakout rooms, pardon my terms, go to where we have the employees, connect with them, and this is where the job of HR comes in. How well does HR connect with the people? And then the job is beyond HR. Mr. Otamere, he mentioned something that well-being is both a science and an art. The science being diagnosis And we do that a lot. We do it in consulting. Beyond consulting, we actually do it in the workplace. That's where surveys come in. You're engaging the employees. What matters to you? What would make you thrive here in the workplace? What would affect your health? You're asking those questions. So that's why I said beyond HR, managers are the people that have more connection also with the employees. Within Philips Consulting, and also when we get to engage our clients, that's the approach we get to take. It starts with engaging with the employees to know what matters to them, to know what would be impactful, what would help them thrive when it comes to their well-being. And when you have that information, you can then work with them to co-create what would help them when it comes to their well-being. We always advise our clients. For example, you might think that free food or gym membership is what will matter to them, but what they're actually looking for might be flexible work, because they want to be able to take care of their needs. They want to adjust their family needs. That might be what will matter to them. You might think that like I said, it can be free food that you think would help them, but what would matter to them would be something different completely. So it's very important that you engage the employees, because the truth is, employees are the experts of their own needs. If we leave the work environment, let's go to friendships, relationships. If you want to get a gift for someone, you've observed the person, you work with data, you get something that is created to meet the need of the person. It's the same thing in the workplace. Don't take general practice and bring it to the workplace. You need to engage your employees to know what they want, to know what will meet their needs. And when we do that, you can design a holistic program that can address both emotional well-being, financial well-being, social well-being, mental well-being. When we do that, we design a program that is not just well-designed, but is well-received. And when it's well-received by the employees, then it's impactful.
Brilliant response. Thank you so much. Please, can you give her a round of applause, please? So again, we've been told now that we cannot design these, wellness programs that will be from the boardroom. So we have to bring it straight a little bit to the employees who will directly feel the impact. So again, if you go design something a little bit from the management room of the boardroom, what if is repulsive a little bit to the individuals who are supposed to benefit from it? Excellent response. Thank you so much. We have lots of questions here. Again, a little bit the organizers of this event. Please, we are running out of time. Please just kindly draw my ears, because we are really enjoying it. I'm also lost at least in most of those things that they mentioned. Let's go to the second round of the question. And here is the reason why I was trying to pull you back when you went straight into metrics, because the first question I have for you is metrics. Okay? So which was the reason I didn't want to go into that metrics. So I will read the question. What key metrics do you think do you use to track the impact of your awareness program in your organization? And I want you to use Lafarge as a case study.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So I'll try and stick to your question. Yeah, look, the main one that we use, because it's quite validated, okay, and it is external, for you to know whether it's actually working is through all the engagement surveys that we've done. In the past 5 years, we've done, I think, almost about 3 Gallup score. We've done engagement survey. We've done Great Place to Work. We partnered with Nigeria to Equal. We're about 17 or 18 companies, multinationals in Nigeria that participated in that survey. We tested ourselves a respectable workplace. And those surveys basically gave us, deep insight into what's actually happening within the organization. And from there, we can start planning as to how do we address it. And it stems from, do you have your line manager or your colleague, caring about you in the workplace? Do you have a friend in the workplace? Because you can imagine, somebody doesn't even want to go to work. You wake up and then you think, oh, I'm going to that work. Nobody's going to talk to me when I get to work. All those little things, questions that connect to the overall satisfaction level of the organization is essentially what we use. So that one is there, and it's very comprehensive. It can give you something. But then there are also other metrics too. Productivity, okay, so what are we doing in terms of performance of the business itself? Because it's also very critical for you to be able to wrap a story around it. Like, you don't want your CEO to say, look, we've achieved this as much, and it was done through our strategy, our commercial strategy. No, it is about the people. It's because there's all these little connecting dots that made it possible for the people to actually perform. We say if you want to win in the marketplace, you first of all need to go and win in the workplace first, right? So if your people are not happy, if they're not satisfied, they are going to go to your customer and start fighting with them anyway. The third one is the participation rate also in the programs itself, individual programs. How has it been marketed to people? Because one of the things that organizations do very well is to go out and market products, but they don't look inside and say, look, how do I market this program to these people? We talk about, okay, I want to do hybrid. Have we marketed it right? Not only to the employee, but also to the line manager, because the line manager can also mess it up and make it not work. So have we marketed it right? What's the retention of that particular program over a number of years? Is it dwindling? Do I need to change and start going to do another thing? Then, of course, all the health stuff that comes through, all the stress surveys that you do through your employee assistance program, all those metrics comes out to show whether you're actually on the right progress, or it is something that you need to take a step back and say, look, okay, well, I need to change this because it's actually not working and it's not satisfying the needs of my people.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Please, can you give him a round of applause, please? If your hands are not so busy, please give him a round of applause. You touched on productivity, but I'd like Olani came out to expand that. Again, because these are public sector people, private sector people, they are empirical in their thinking, so they think about Naira and Kobo, right? So I will ask you this question. Have you observed any tangible business outcomes, such as increased productivity or reduction turnover linked to your wellness program?
Of course, absolutely.
From a practical standpoint.
Absolutely.
Great.
I'll start with this. Scientifically, it's determined that people with low wellness exposure do have low mental capability. It's actually scientifically proven. So you can see that the more you give to your people, the higher your numbers will. And in our 3 years, we'll be 3 years this April, we're excited about that. The numbers has been phenomenal. It's been the first year we made about 14.7, and this year I think we're about 50.7 billion. And looking at it, and then looking at the number of people doing that, you cannot just say that these people are optimal. Then there's no way your people can be optimal if they're not optimal holistically. I'm talking about their health, their mind, their emotions, and even their financial. It must everything work together. So it's a direct correlation. And we also measure happiness in terms of what we call the daily mood index. When people come in the morning, we want to know how you feel, because we know that wellness is not just macro, it's also macro. It's not just micro, it's also macro. So what is the impact of the external factor? The traffic, the home. And so we want to know how you feel. And so we have in-house counselors, coaches that do talk to them. And then so that helps. And then we do our stay interviews. Our stay interview is another great way to know if your wellness initiatives are working, and how it impacts productivity, how it impacts the job role. Remember that sense of purpose is part of wellness. And how they feel about their job is very important, and that's where they can be optimal. And so when your stay interview should also cover that. It's not just, why do you want to stay in the organization? Do you enjoy what you do? What is the impact of what you do on the organization? People want to know. Well, they want to see themselves in that puzzle. How do I fit in here? And then, a very simple example was when we started our first graduate training program. We sent the invite to just employees. About 24 hours later, I have over 20,000 applicants. It says something. I have faith in this brand because it's just to the people. So measurement, productivity is from every little thing. What do they have to say in their conversation? What is the trust in the leadership? What are the trust in their line managers? Remember, we've said it all. People work for people. So I was really happy when she spoke about training, because that is part of wellness. If you don't know how to handle people, the people cannot handle the task. So everything is actually interwoven. It's a big picture, and everything drives productivity. So the productivity is not just one thing. It's every little thing that we do, it counts. And you have to make sure that they feel it counts. So when you feel that if I sweep the floor, it counts. If I open the gate, it counts. Everybody will be optimal, and then productivity is optimal.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You deserve a round of applause, please. Thank you so much, Olanike. Let me go to Olubukola. And again, this is another interesting question. So it speaks a little bit to employee feedback regarding wellness initiative. I want you to a little bit to address that question a little from two perspectives. How do you gather feedback? And what do you do with that feedback as it relates a little bit to wellness initiative in the organization? The reason why this is important, I want you to tie it a little bit to the Tracy's earlier comment around engagement with the employees. So again, you've deployed a little bit initiatives. So is there a feedback mechanism? And how do you get that feedback a little bit from the employees? And once you have that feedback, what do you do with it in terms of action plan? Thank you.
Thank you, Miwa. So collecting feedback from the employees is critical because it helps to test the pulse of the organization. It helps you to determine whether your employees are engaged to be able to deliver on the overall objective of the organization or not. So to get feedback from the employee, there are various avenues to do that. You can use the employee satisfaction survey. It could be based on one-on-one. That's when you run an open door policy where your employees can actually walk up to you and express themselves. And I think it's important that the organization, every organization is mature enough that your employee can actually walk up to you, line managers, and express how they feel about the organization per time. You can use town hall meetings. You can also use focus group sessions. Maybe you just want to have the Gen Zs and the millennials. They're very open, they're vocal, they will say the way they feel it, vocal. So you can actually have focus group sessions with different categories of employees in a team, in a room, and engage them on different subjects, and you get the feedback from them. That's one. And I think if an organization is objective with this feedback that comes, it would definitely help you with your employee promoter score. Because I believe the long and short of all that we're talking about here is how an organization can be sustained, how an organization can continue business continuity and all of that. So if you have your people and your people are connected to you, then definitely your employee net promoter score will reveal to everyone that once you connect to your organization, that your organization is a well-being focused organization. Number two, the other side of it about what you do with the feedback is by the time you come, you analyze the feedback that you get across the different areas, depending on how you have, requested for feedback from the employee. It could be about the work environment, how conducive it is. It could be about your pay. It could be about leadership. It could be about some of the initiatives, the employee welfare programs that you have. When the feedback comes, analyze them based on feedback you've gotten, and also the recommendations and suggestions from the employee. And now have a plan around, addressing those issues, and take the feedback, your plan, back to the employee, because they need to know how you intend to address their suggestions, the issues, the concerns that they have brought to management's notice, and have a plan. I mean, what I mean by plan is time, it must be time bound. It must be smart. So whatever it is, specific action plans with regards to specific timing that you look to achieve that. Even if it's not something that you can achieve in the interim, the low-hanging ones that could be achieved immediately, that is when your employees will know that you are actually connected, you care, and you're interested in their well-being, and they will stay committed to the organization.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Please, can you give her a round of applause? You can see that she wasn't reading from the book. She was saying to us that what she does currently in our organization. So she deserves a round of applause. These people really came prepared today. Thank you so much, Olubukola. I have the last question. Again, I still have another set of questions, but again, under this badge. And that's the next question I'll leave to Tracy. Tracy, this is an interesting question that is suited a little bit for a consultant like yourself. So I will read the question to you. What challenges have you faced in measuring the success of your wellness programs, and how do you address them? Before you go ahead, I do not want you to respond to this that is within the context of Philip Consulting, but from the context that of a consultant who offers advisory to various organizations. Because this is a practical challenge that a lot of people face. So what do you advise? So again, see us as your client. So how do you address this from that perspective as a consultant? Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is one of the trickiest parts of measuring wellness efforts in any organization. Because how do you connect? It's really about connecting these soft wellness efforts to the hard business metrics. And that's what any CEO or any employer wants to see. HR, you're bringing this to my table. What impact does it have in the business? For them, is the bottom line. That's what matters to them. So looking at it from the consulting point of view, one thing we get to advise clients, I would speak first of all. I think we heard participation rates, how well do people participate and all of that. But sometimes it's not just about participation. People can participate, but are they engaged? You come up with a mental health awareness program and you have your employees just sitting down and watching. They are participating, they are there, they come to attend. But beyond participation, one thing you should also look out for is their engagement. How well are they engaged with any initiative that you're bringing on board? Just to backtrack, I know that CEOs want to see, if I'm bringing a mental health awareness program, how does it drive profitability? Or you want remote work, or you want to have a flexible work culture. How do we measure performance, right? So beyond participation, one thing that you can look at to measure the success of your wellness program is to see how well the employees are engaged. And then also observe. I think initially I mentioned that it's beyond HR, it has to do with the managers. Observe the countenance of your employees. Are they performing well? How are they showing up at work every day? Beyond the wellness programs that we're doing, you need to see that it actually has an impact on them. And then the most important, I would say, is employee feedback. Always get feedback for every initiative that you're getting. That's the best. I think that's one of the best ways that you can measure the success of your programs. It's not perfect, right? But once you get feedback from the employees, you get to know if whatever initiative or program that you're deploying has an effect on the people, if it's actually impacting the people.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tracy. Please, you deserve a round of applause, please. Thank you so much. I'm told that I have just about 10 minutes a little bit to the end of this session. So again, I believe that the audience might probably be itching a little bit to ask their own questions. So we should give you opportunity. I still have loads of questions here, so we haven't run out of questions, but we are running out of time. So are there questions a little bit from the audience, online joiners, physical participants? If there are questions, please feel free a little bit to raise up your hand so that we can give you the microphone a little bit to ask your question. Excellent. So we can see 2 hands already. So let's just take those two questions. Please, can you quickly take the microphone to them? And if there is any specific panel members that you would like a little bit to point your question to, please feel free to do that as well. Thank you. Please introduce yourself a little before you go into the question.
Okay. My name is Dr. Timothy Ijeola. I'm from Philips Consulting.
Okay.
So I'm an industrial and organizational psychologist. So my question is very, very simple. I will want to possibly put it in a way more like a question, then possibly see how I can contribute, because I remember the commissioner said something like, "Is here to get a feedback." But from all our discussions, I've been wondering, in what way are we giving him feedback? What are the take-home for him in all this that we are saying? So how is he going to, encourage policy or be built, all this contribution be built into policy making? So first of all, a lot of you've said a lot of things. The Lafarge man.
I think I get your point.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Okay.
Let me just quickly interject.
Okay.
The commissioner is there, so he can. I'm sure he's making a whole lot of notes, because I inspire his notes sometimes.
Yes. One more thing, just to clarify
Yes.
it better, because in the developed world, there are policies, there are things that are around some of these things. Like somebody was talking about in-house counselor. I think the madam said that, and the coaches in some of these things. And as an industrial psychologist, I know that that's a great place where the industrial organizational psychologists have a lot of work to do in terms of even measuring well-being, measuring workplace attitudes and all that. But we don't have a solid policy when it comes to you engaging an organizational psychologist. Who are the people practicing those counselor and coaching, whatever? How well are they certified? So what is the policy saying about, okay, organizations will have this thing in place, but then those who will be there, who are the people that should handle some of these things? Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So let's take a little bit second question. I'm told that we have one online joiner with a question. So we'll take a little bit two additional questions. So please, let's take that second question from the physical participants here. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much, panelists, for a wonderful session. My name is Chinyere, and I work with a construction firm. Now, my question is very direct. From all what you've said, engaging top management, line managers, speaking with employees, getting surveys. Now, after all the information you've gotten, everything is on point, and you have gone to present to management, and management is not bulging. What do you do as an HR professional? Especially when you've come from every angle, your bottom line is fine, everything seems okay, but there's not just this bulge. And of course, employees keep coming. You can actually see that this is actually something that we need to do, but there's no headway. What should an HR person do?
Excellent. Thank you so much for that second question, and which I will request Gbemiga to respond to in a minute. So, but sorry, we can only take two questions from here if you don't mind. I can see a lot more hands are coming up now. Let's take one question a little bit from the online joiner, if you do not mind, please. My apologies. Can you unmute a little bit the person? Okay, so we have the question here with me. All right, thank you. So I read the question. So how often should stay interview be conducted by question? Okay, that is the question. So how often should stay in interview should be conducted? I think that should be answered by Bukola, right? Okay. I mean, so yes, Olanike Martins. So let's take the first question. Look, the commissioner is not my panelist, so I'm not enabled to direct any question to him. But I can see he's making a whole lot of notes. So your first question, I believe the commissioner will take it away from here. So again, if you have the privilege of speaking with the commissioner after which, then perhaps maybe you have that benefit to share notes with you. So thank you so much. Let's focus attention on the other two questions. So I will expect to take the number two question and the question on the stay interview.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, let me just help the commissioner, because I know that Lagos State has a very good HR practice, to be candid, because they are actually a very strong member of Nigerian CIPM. So there's a lot that is going on in Lagos State Civil Service. So in terms of the professional part of the psychologists, look, most organizations have employee assistance program that the employees and even the spouses, because in Lafarge, the employees and the spouses can actually get in touch with the counselors, and these are trained, certified counselors. We also have employee assistance program champions that also goes around, and start looking at people, like she said. You just employ somebody that is not talking to anybody, and nobody is talking to him. So who notices that? So it's all these things that help people to actually, have some mental, because to be candid, mental health is a very critical issue now, especially with the Gen Zs anyway. We can take it in, but the Gen Zs don't take it in, okay? The second one is on what happens if you presented all the data. Sometimes it's about the story. The same way that we go outside to go and tell somebody that wants to buy a product, the profit story. You want to go to your business partner, you tell the person, what is it, the gain there for me if I do this thing? If you go to your CEO with the proper storyline, and you can do the connect as to, if we do this, this is going to be the result. A very good CEO or an ESCO will probably listen to you. But if you go there and just talk without data, without support, without facts, without best practices, and not that you have to pick out the best practices in this world, but what is best practice for you to implement, that is when they can buy into it. Now, if the CEO or the business still doesn't buy into it, then there's a problem already, because that place is never going to be a great place to work. And you know, the ambition is for us to get to a stage where, you know, most businesses are actually great places to work in order to improve productivity. I'll stop there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So let's go to the other question.
Thank you so much. Also, just to measure some things about what the psychologist said. I mean, Bengal is right. We have the EAPs, and the people there are actually certified psychologists. Also, the in-house counselors, and they're actually trained by certified psychologists. So they're certified themselves. So it's not just anybody. So it's not open for all. So we have, we train them, counselors train them, psychologists train them, and they go through the coaching training for about 60 weeks for them to be certified. So we just don't want to hand people's life over to people that are not professionals. But it's easier when you have in-house. Not that excludes the external, but when there is a need, an immediate need, someone is there to catch you when you fall. But when we think it's bigger than the internal people, we take it external. So we also still use actually, the experiences and the support of the external psychologists. And to speak to the stay interview, you as long as an employee is confirmed, is then the journey to make them to stay starts. Because you are certified that this person, you can work with this person, the culture fits your organization, and this person wants to stay. So the journey starts immediately. So the minimum you can start your stay interview is 6 months after the employee is confirmed. And if you think 6 months is too much for you, then within every year, you must have your litmus test. Do you still want to be here? You must have your litmus test, because that helps you with data, live data, to make decision, live data to present to your executive management. So, the lady that spoke, data is everything. HR of today, you must be analytically savvy. You must understand numbers. You must be able to speak to businesses. Because I say one thing, HR is not prospering if business is not prospering.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Please, they all deserve a round of applause. Please, if your hands are not so busy, please, let's give them a round of applause. Let's keep clapping for them. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alibi, to all the panel members. But before I let you go, just to wrap up, Alibi, very quickly. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize, Alibi, to few people that we couldn't, Alibi, take your questions. Please, I believe, Alibi, the panel members are still in the room, Alibi, so you can reach out to them, Alibi, so that they can respond, Alibi, to whatever question that you might probably still have with you. But overall, just as a wrap up, this is an extremely important topic, and I believe that we've gained a lot of insight. I have gained a lot of insight. Realistically, we're doing so great, but again, we've taken so much from what other organizations are doing. I can connect the dots, meaning that in some areas that we need improvement, in some areas as well that we're doing very well. I feel extremely excited that listening to colleagues that will be working in the organization, aligning thoughts that will be what we currently do. I think that is great. And I also believe there are a number of us that will be either online joiners that will be, or those that are physically present here. You must have taken some nuggets that you will then take away to your organization. Don't let this knowledge go to waste just by putting a list in this thing and not do anything about it. Action plan is left for you to put in place so that at least we can realize the benefit of this conference today. And this is extremely important. And I will put it into 2 buckets. Initiative is great. Initiative is great, but we've been told now that you cannot conduct that initiative or come up with a design initiative without touching base with your employees. Because those are the people that will directly feel that will be the impact of that initiative. So HR leader, you can't be in a room with the management, go and create initiative for the rest of the workforce without having them being involved in it. I think that's extremely important. Number 2 is being ruthless with the implementation of that initiative is extremely important. Number 3 is the metrics. Because if your initiatives are not working, you should have an opportunity to course correct. If you don't have metrics to measure that initiative, then that initiative will go to waste ultimately. I think it's important. If there is anything at all you are taking away from this, please do not forget those 3 key things. So once again, thank you so much. And thanks to the organizers for the opportunity to speak to this topic. Once again, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, we would like a representative from PCL and a representative from Blue Bulb. Okay, so just for the second photograph, we would like the Honorable Commissioner to please stay behind, and then the publisher of BusinessDay, as well as the representative from Blue Bulb, and the representative from PCL, and the representative from Great Place to Work. The other panelists can please excuse. Thank you so much. PCL and Blue Bulb. All right, did we find that panel very insightful? Because I did find it very insightful. Please, once again, please put your hands together for our brilliant panelists and our moderator. Is that the best we can do? Please, let's make it louder. Thank you. There's one thing I picked from that panel that I'm taking away is that it said we cannot design wellness programs and leave it to the boardroom. And I completely agree with that, because if you ask a Gen Z what they would define as a great workplace, and if you ask a millennial or a boomer, I'm sure it will be different. I'm sure you would agree with me. So once again, please put your hands together with that panel. For our next panel today, we're taking the conversations even deeper, and we'll be reflecting or speaking on the engagement profitability nexus and driving business growth through people. And on this panel, we have another set of very brilliant professionals. We have Funke Shobanjo, the Group Chief Operating Officer at FBN Quest Group. Please put your hands together for Funke Shobanjo as she comes up. All right, thank you so much. Please keep clapping till they come up. Please, let's just encourage them. Let's keep clapping till they come up. We also have on this panel the Chief Operating Officer for Owning My Greatness Limited, and this is Oluwayomi Nakpo Bero. Please put your hands together for Oluwayomi as she comes up. Thank you so much. We also have the Group Head for Business Growth at Blue Bulb Financials, Oluwaseunwola Dimeji. Also on this panel, we have Ogugwa Belonwu, the founder and CEO of My Job Mag, being represented by Antonia Esiro, the head of HR at My Job Mag. Also to moderate this panel, we have the Human Resource Director at DHL Express Nigeria, Sheyi Fasonya. Please put your hands together. Please, let's keep it brief and timely, just like the first panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sure we are having quite a very interesting time. Okay, so well, for DHL, which is actually a 4-time consecutive winner of a Great Place to Work, we've actually seen firsthand the impact of culture on customers' experience as well as the bottom line. We have 4 primary pillars in DHL, which is 1, motivated people, which automatically translates into what? Great service quality. And that also impacts our next line of pillar, which is profit loyal customers. And at the end of the day, the fourth pillar is a profitable network. So we see the linkage. And of course, we have here as well people from other great workplaces, and we're here to actually learn from you, and I'm also here to learn from you. So we'll be jumping right into it. For the first panelist, which is Funke, I'll be asking some questions. I know we have quite very important people and busy people here, so we're going to keep it quite brief and impactful. Thank you. So first question for me would be, can you tell us how your organization define and measure employee engagement? How do you define it? How do you measure it within your organization? Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's a great question. I'm delighted to be here. When you think of employee engagement, the rhetoric that comes to mind most of the time, and I'm sure—
Please help us with your mic.
Sorry. I'm sure it resonates with most of us in the room, but typically you imagine performance appraisal season and you think about scorecards, you think about appraisal results, and you're thinking, how well have we done as an organization? How engaged have our people been? How have they been, essentially, through the period in question? But for us at FBN Quest, we like to approach it a bit differently. It's not about the metrics, right? At the end of the day, to say you have a truly engaged workforce and a workforce that connects with your ambition is really the objective. How do we make this happen? How do we define employee engagement? Visibility, having a voice, showing up, being accountable, and in essence, the energy levels, right? So what energy do you bring to the table as an employee? Are you aligned to the corporate objective? Do you understand how your contribution really matters in terms of profitability, in terms of numbers? So in essence, for us, it's really about connectedness to purpose of the group. It's about results, it's about accountability and visibility. And in terms of measurement, we go back to the usual. So we check in with surveys. We also have the opportunity during town halls to gauge how engaged employees are. And really, at the end of the day, in the interactions you have with your peers and with employees on a regular basis, you get a sense of that level of engagement. And indeed, being a great place to work, we have had the opportunity to expand the toolkits we use by affiliation with Great Place to Work.
Great, thank you very much for that insight. Thank you. So my next question goes to Ogugwa. The question is this: what strategies have you found most effective in boosting engagement within your organization?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is not Ogugwa, my name is Antonia.
Antonia,
I'm
great.
the head HR of my job mag.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to first start by talking about employee engagement. So most times when I speak with other HR professionals on the topic of employee engagement, sometimes I hear some people say, oh, we have outing, we have a get-together. They see employee engagement as going out and having team meetings and all. So employee engagement is way more than that. So one strategy I found most in boosting employee engagement is creating openness and also making sure that the people have a sense of belonging,
Great.
where people are able to speak. And when people, especially in this country, Nigeria, where we have hierarchical status in companies, where some people feel like, oh, I cannot talk to maybe the CEO or the MD. So when people feel like they're able to, they're being supported and they're heard, it has a way of improving and boosting their sense of belongingness, and also keeping them motivated. One strategy we use at my job mag is we try to make sure that everybody is being heard. We organize town hall meetings where people come, they sit, and they share their own opinions or they give feedback. We also have a feedback box, which may be traditional, but we still practice it there, where people are free to drop their feedback in the boxes and suggestions. And also growth is very important, especially in this time and day. So we create opportunities where people can grow, and we also create training opportunities where people are able to learn and unlearn. And also in this time and day, I can remember, I think last week, there was a traffic issue, especially here on the island rather, where people had to get to their houses as late as 2 a.m. So we also practice flexibility. Flexibility is something we also practice, where people are able to work from home and either work in the office. Even on the work from home day, the office is always open for people to come to the office, especially if they're having challenges with power supplies and all. So empathy is really, really, really important. When a company has empathy, the people feel trusted, they have that loyalty, knowing that the company really cares about them. So those are some of the ways and strategies we practiced at my job mag.
Thank you very much. That's quite very interesting. Thank you. That actually also resonates with DHL Express culture, which is of respect and result. And we say we do not compromise result for respect. So we treat our people fairly. So to the next panelist, we're going to be asking the question, can you share a real life example where improved engagement directly led to better business performance? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's an honor to be here. A real life example. Okay. So I think I had a situation with my IT manager at some point where certain tasks were being given to him to do. And, so the organization I work with, we are largely remote. About 90% of us work remotely. Yes, so he's one of those people who works remotely, and there had been the back and forth, well, not back and forth. I had sent him a few emails as to, tasks that he needed to do. And I wasn't getting any response. I wasn't getting response to the email, neither was I, of course, and then I wasn't getting response to the task being done. So eventually I had to put a call through, and I couldn't get through to him. So, of course, that was a bit worrying. So I got in touch with his brother, who, I had on, as part of his details when he started working with us, who had then let me know that their mother had just passed. So now, me about 3 or 4 years before this incident will probably have said, oh, okay, I'm sorry about that, but then went on to the task. But then, there's been a change in my attitude and in my orientation, towards how I relate with, the people that I work with. And so, of course, that was a moment where I had to take a step back to say, okay, yes, this task is important, but of course, your well-being and your, mental health and state of mind and all of that is equally important, if not more important, because of course, at that point, he wasn't able to do anything. And this was also a situation where, so the organization I work with is we were majorly counselors and therapists. So it was a situation where he had a session with me before about his mother. So I couldn't play dumb to, the situation on ground. So I had to be empathetic at that point in time. But what I also realized was that by the time he was able to because I had had that engagement with him and I had spoken with him about it, and you said, okay, you know, how can we be there? How can we be supportive? You know, what do you need us to do? And all of that. By the time he came back to do the work, he was able to do it at a much higher level. Now, whether that was because there was some engagement, or whether you know, he just realized that he needed to, you know, make up for the lost time, only he will be able to say. But at least that I was able to, you know, realize that, you know, there's a need to be empathetic, you know, in some of these situations, even though we don't want it to be like, oh, because you have a situation at home or whatever, it's used as an excuse at any point in time. But there are times when you just realize that, you know, there's nothing you can do about this situation. And so, but that engagement for me showed that, you know, there was some level of improvement in his work and in our own deliverable at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. An excellent one, wouldn't you say that? Well, I tell HR practitioner that we must not remove that humanness out of our practice. And it's very important that we actually connect with our people and do give them such level of flexibility and understanding and empathy when that is required. Thank you very much for that response. So I would ask the next panelist, ma'am, you have a mic? Oh, great, thank you. How do leadership behaviors and management styles impact employee engagement in your organization?
Okay, thank you, everyone. I will start by sharing our vision in Blue Bulb, and as I navigate this question, you would understand why. Now, at Blue Bulb, we want to simplify cross-border payments for African businesses. And this is important to us because at every waking moment, we have a transformative leader who inspires us, who drives the vision, and who supports us to live that singular vision of simplifying cross-border payments for African businesses. Now, and the reason why its leadership styles are so important is, first and foremost, I'd like to say I'm an engaged employee. My profile says I'm group head business growth, so I'm not a HR professional, but the singular opportunity given to me to be on this stage tells you so much more about the organization that I represent. At Blue Bulb, we have leaders that think that impossibility doesn't exist. They breathe it. So I can tell you for free that my boss will be somewhere, he's probably listening online, he's gassing me up saying, you go girl. And when you are an employee inside that environment, you really start to find out that you're able to deliver at phenomenal levels that you never thought you could. So if you go through our trajectory as a business, for example, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've experienced 100% growth year on year in this economy that things are tough. And if you look at the median age of our workforce, pretty much will be 25, 26 levels. Some of our joiners are new entries, are new entrants into the job market. But the fact that we have a leader who is transformative, who takes and seizes every opportunity to share the vision in a most simplistic way that maybe a 5-year-old will understand what you want to do, who is absolutely supportive. It makes all the difference. On Wednesday last week, I think that was when we had the traffic saga in Lagos. I had gone for a call at Minima Estate in Ikeja, and it took me 5 hours from Lekki to get to Minima. So I was back from Minima Estate, I think 5:36 p.m., and I'd given my boss, who is our group chief executive, feedback on the meeting, certain things, I could have done certain things better, and he had given me feedback, and I was on my way saying, okay, I need to cross-check X and Y. It was a learning conversation for me. And I think at past 11, my group head HR, Abimbola, says to me, she was checking in on me, how are you doing? What's happening? I said, Abimbola, I'm in traffic. I'm in Ikoyi. I'm told that Lekki is blocked. I don't know when I'm going to get home. So Abimbola was calling, my spouse was calling, my son was calling, and The next thing, I think to 12, my group chief executive picks the call and says, calls me and says, Sean, where are you? I said, I'm in traffic. And he said, really? Can you please pull up, find the closest hotel, and get settled in? The point I'm making is that his workload is phenomenal. It was excusable, it would have been excusable for him not to reach out to me, but my boss called me. I can go on and on to say to you that really, from my experience, remember I started my storytelling by telling you that I'm an engaged staff. Blue Bulb is an absolute great place to work. We place a huge demand on ourselves, but then I don't know of any other work family you will find that pales or that is similar to the kind of support you enjoy. And that's because we have an absolutely phenomenal leader who shapes culture, who leads the talk, who lets us know that we can deliver the impossible, and we are constantly delivering awesome results. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. I was going to say, I think for all the great bosses that we have here, I think they deserve a round of applause, don't you? Great. So for the next segment of our question, we'll be measuring and sustaining engagement for business growth. That's what we're going to be measuring, how we actually measure and sustain engagement for business growth. So talking to you, Funke, this question is directed at you. What key metrics do you track to assess the impact of employee engagement in profitability at your business?
So it's more than sentiments, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. Several metrics come to mind, but I'll focus on 3. Attrition, extremely important. When you want to assess how well, how connected, and how engaged your workforce is, it's no surprise to everybody that you will have unavoidable attrition. At the end of the day, people might decide, or an employee might decide they want to relocate, they might decide they have to leave the firm because they want to go and study. A big regret is when you have a high-performing employee decide to leave because they have a better offer somewhere else. You start to ask questions. What did we do wrong? What haven't we done that we should have considered for this particular employee, or for indeed the team or the workforce as a whole? It's extremely important to measure attrition and to use the data on a relative basis to ensure that you're moving in the right direction. We can't afford to have regrettable attrition, but dare I say it, we can't afford to have attrition that we can avoid. Because to the extent that you have the employees in your organization today, then any attrition is to some extent regrettable. Otherwise, you might have exited the individuals already. So that's one metric. An additional metric that's equally important is customer satisfaction. Do we, as employers, assess that engagement we have between teams to ensure that we are also serving ourselves well, not just focused on serving external customers well? Because if I don't have a great relationship with my peers and my colleagues in different teams, at the end of the day, I'm probably not going to deliver the best service to the customer out there. So that's another metric. Empathy was touched on earlier on. It's a difficult one to measure. We've also talked about the benefits of having strong managers. A metric we introduced probably about 2 years ago at my organization or within the group is manager effectiveness. It is critical. We've talked about how great bosses leave lasting impressions. For everybody in the room, it's clear that you model the behaviors you see demonstrated in front of you. So at the end of the day, having an empathetic, solid, sound, understanding manager is the key to ensuring your workforce is engaged, and also the key to driving your profitability. So we continue to track several metrics, but those are some of the ones that we pay a lot of attention to, because individuals don't leave organizations. I firmly believe they leave managers.
Thank you very much for that insight, Funke. I think we're recognizing that it's well, I was going to say it has become the world of the employees, and it's all about keeping them. And apparently, Great Place to Work is also creating great place workplaces where people have options. So critical for us is actually how to retain our top talent and ensure that they grow within our business. The next question will be directed to Antonia. Antonia, what strategies, or let me take it again, how has your organization linked employee satisfaction with customer satisfaction and business success?
All right, so at my job mark, we've come to realize that employee satisfaction is not just an HR metric. It fuels customer satisfaction, and ultimately it boosts the company's successes or productivity. Over time at my job mark, we conduct feedback processes where we collect information from the employees and we try to track the communication. We also try to track the feedback as to how they feel about themselves and also how they feel about the company. So we make use of this information. And also, aside that, we also notice that when the people are happy, the productivity is high. So we do not joke with the people's feelings and their feedback. So we always check in. We check in on our employees regularly, even though we actually work hybrid. Even while at home, while working, we also do a regular check-in to know how the people are feeling and also know about the challenges, to know how they can feel better. Then aside that, we also organize programs where the people can learn and become better.
Great, thank you very much for that insight. I like the fact that you talked about checking in. I think it's quite very important that we do that, especially now where we've actually adopted the new way of work, which is hybrid working, remote working and all. So the people connection is quite very important. I think it's important that we also let our our audience know that we're also streaming live on BusinessDay TV, on YouTube channels. You can share the link with your friends and your peers so that they can as well join this very interesting interactive session. Thank you. So to our next panelist, I would be asking the question, how do you gather and act on employee feedback to sustain high engagement levels within your organization?
Okay, thank you for that. So one of the things that I've found personally in relating with, I call them my colleagues. So, is I found that, every now and again, I just have non-work conversations. So, in fact, the very first time I did it, it came as it was like a shock. Everybody was like, what's going on? But I just had, because over time, maybe I've asked some information, your parents, your siblings, blah, blah, blah. So I just then ask personal, direct questions, how is your sister? I know she's in school. You guys lost your mom. How is she feeling? How is she handling? You are not in the country. And I'm just giving real life examples of some of the things that have happened and just having those conversations. And I could tell that, you could literally see some of their shoulders. It was like a weight just drop because they're like, oh, wow. So somebody sees me aside from just having to fulfill a role. So that was one of the ways that, because I realized that, sometimes we could ask for feedback, But then this feedback comes, and then it's like it's just for information purposes. It's just to be able to say we gather data, and nothing actually happens after that. So having those kind of conversations, non-work conversations, was one of the ways that I found was really engaging for the employees, because then after that, what they're then able to do is, if they're having challenges in work, if they're having challenges outside of work, it's easy for them to then come and say, this is what is going on, how can we help? What can we do? Or can I take this? Or can I do this? And so that conversation is then easier to have, because there's been, because I have then initiated conversations that have been non-work related. Another thing I've also found is that, when they actually do give back, I listen. So, and maybe because, of my profession and my training as a counselor and a therapist, I know how to listen. So when they are talking, I'm not listening to respond. I'm listening to hear what they are saying, so that we can then find a solution together. So, and what I've found that to do is they realize that, somebody really cares. They are not just part of the numbers. They are not just, fulfilling a position or filling a position, as it were, in the organization. So listening for me has, always proven to sort of like break the ice, between myself and colleagues, that I work with. And then another thing I would say is normalizing vulnerability. So I know that in a lot of places, vulnerability is sometimes seen as weakness, but I found it to be a strength, because when I can be vulnerable with the people that I work with, whether they are my managers or the people I see, in my office, what it means is that they can also be vulnerable. So they don't think that I'm superhuman and a superwoman and I can do everything at all times and every day. They also know that there are times when certain things may be required of me and I may not be able to do it, so I might need their help. I might need to ask for help from either one of them or ask for help from somebody above me. So I normalize vulnerability so that it's also easier for them to, and I think she mentioned it, that when people model what they see, and sometimes we say that's how children learn, but I think it also applies in the workplace. Thank you.
Great, and that actually, a round of applause to her, please. That actually speaks to a strategy session we also had where it talks about meaningful connection. I know there's this fad out there where people will say, you just come to work to come work, and that is it. Beyond just work, what actually makes a great team is actually some of the points she's mentioned: connectivity, vulnerability. And that is actually very key to building synergy within your team, meaningful connection, as well as growth in your business. So to our next panelist, I would like to ask you, what challenges have you encountered in maintaining engagement across different employee demographics, and how have you tackled them?
Thank you very much for that very interesting question. For us as a business, culture is very important. And I know that we are all familiar with this management phrase that says culture eats strategy for breakfast. And we know that people are our differentiating factor within this space. And so we're very big on culture, and the biggest challenges we faced in driving engagement has been culture-based. We want to be sure that across board, we're a fast-paced business, which means we're growing. I think we've almost doubled staff strength between last year and this year. And you know what that means. So we quickly, through a competency-based assessment, had realized that there was a need to strengthen certain cultures internally, and I'm really emphasizing and speaking to soft skills here. And so what we have decided, how we overcame these challenges, was to now have knowledge sharing sessions, we call them KSS, to target certain soft skills that we believe will help us strengthen the culture that will foster employee engagement. I think over 4 weeks ago, we had a KSS deliberately focusing on communication, what active listening is, how to show respect genuinely across various levels, subtle things that may communicate disrespect that people certainly take for granted. So for us, it was the challenges were centered around culture, and like I shared, we've taken a proactive step to ensure that we have our training curriculum strengthened with certain trainings that help us to reinforce culture and grow the soft skills that we believe will foster a positive workplace and ultimately significantly impact employee engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that talks to when you have, for example, in my own organization, you have like 4 generations already, and you know the impact when you have the Gen Alphas also coming in. But critical for us is also the fact that we're also looking at what great places of work, great workplaces do, which is reverse mentoring, because quite a lot the older generations, well, we don't like to say that, but the boomers could learn. But apparently there's so much they could learn from the Gen Zs or the Gen As and all. And reverse mentoring is something that has been critical and is working for organizations, which is something everyone can adopt. Going to you, Funke, we are now at the final phase of our segment, which will be looking at future-proofing and engagement strategies within our organization. So Funke, the next question is directed at you, which says, what role does technology play in enhancing employee engagement in your organization?
It's a very interesting question.
Great.
Technology is a tool. Bottom line, it's just a tool. I am perhaps one of the biggest advocates for emerging tech. I want to learn everything. I want to use everything. And none of us here will say we haven't heard of ChatGPT, AI, and the rest of it. Emerging tech is here to stay. In terms of employee engagement, is technology the solution? We don't believe so. Technology enables you to connect, but without the human touch, you cannot succeed. That is my core belief. We heard a beautiful example here of a manager calling, or your CEO, right? Calling you, exactly, group CEO calling. Use the phone, that's a tool, right? But it's the human touch that really fosters engagement and fosters profitability, because once you have a connected, engaged workforce, with the right tools, of course, you'll succeed. So are we optimizing with technology? 3,000%. But what's really going to drive that delta you're looking for? That connectedness, that sense of purpose aligned with the objective of the organization, the level of vulnerability you show in your teams, the way you engage, the fact that you don't mind going into the office 4 or 5 times a week, even though you're expected to only go in twice a week. It's about the people. So yes, technology is great, and it does foster the new wave, but we cannot ignore the fact that it's just the foundation.
Great, thank you very much for the response, okay? I think that's very reassuring for HR practitioners that you still keep your job, with the emerging trends and all of that. They actually need us, you understand? So talking to Antonia, the next question is actually, how are you integrating employee well-being initiative into your engagement strategy?
Okay, so employee well-being is not just a nice to have. It's actually a core part of employee engagement strategies. So over time at my job mag, we've come to realize that when people feel cared, when we care for them, and we put into consideration some of the personal lives they bring into the office, they feel a sense of belonging. And over time, since after the COVID, when the whole remote work started, we've introduced some time off where people can actually work from home instead of the regular coming to the office we usually do. And we also encourage women, especially women who are just put to bed, and parents who need time to spend at home. We create a flexible work environment where they are free to work from home so that they can take time to take care of the other areas of their life, because every individual, we function in different areas. Even at the workplace, we are not just employees. Some are mothers, some are children. We are sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, that's a mistake.
No,
we are all children.
It's a great phrase with someone's kids anyway.
So we are not just employees. We have other areas. So we allow people to work flexibly so that they can attend to other areas of their life. Then, like I said earlier, we also do check-in, where we check on our people to make sure they are okay. We also have wellness program where people are being educated on financial literacy, stress management, and some other areas. So even though we don't have an in-house person, we outsource it where people come and speak to the people on other areas. So we cover all areas aside just work, even though work is very important. But like it was mentioned earlier, a happy staff is a productive one. So we try to also inculcate other things aside just work. We try to make sure that the people's well-being are being taken care of. And any successful or competitive organization will know that an employee's well-being is very important, and they will go the extra mile to ensure that they are being catered for, and not just work. They try to include other activities in order to make sure that the people are happy. Because let's just imagine the scenario whereby maybe somebody lost her mom or her dad, and the person has to come to work the next day. So the person's mind will not actually be on the work the next day. The person will be grieving and be thinking about the loss. So we try to make sure that we have empathy, to make sure that everything, even though the work, bottom line is the work is very important, and that's where the people are being paid based on the revenue the company is able to get. But we also try to make sure that other areas and the people's lives and mental health are very, very important, while trying to make sure that the company is being productive and the business goal, which is very important, is also met. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response. I like the fact that you mentioned pregnancy along the way. People ask me why I don't have flat tummy. I have 5 kids, so that explains it. So, and I'm also excited that the Honorable Commissioner is here. Since I can help to populate the world, I still have more access to more. So, but I've also gone through all of wellness. I've gone through the loss of a spouse and all of that. And I know how critical it is for organizations where they are actually there for their people. That actually resonates with them. And, you know, it's something that stays with them. And that's what great workplaces do. So the next question goes to the next panelist, where we'll be asking, with evolving work trends that we're witnessing in today's world, hybrid work, remote work, some people even try to differentiate between the two. What engagement strategies are proving more effective within your own organization?
Okay, thank you. Again, because of the kind of organization that I work in and the space that we deal in, one of the things that is very critical for us at Owning My Greatness is to have a safe space for our employees. And when I say safe space, you know, we've had situations where somebody is going through an emotional challenge, and it's being discussed with a line manager, and then we hear it from somebody else.
Ouch.
Now, that is completely frowned on, because what that does is it just creates more problems for the person, and it then becomes more difficult for the person to actually go through and heal from whatever it is that they're experiencing. So we've had to build a culture of a safe space to say that whatever you say to your line manager stays with your line manager. And that's also because we've also ensured that we're able to train these people to be able to do that. So a safe space is something that is very, very critical for us. Another thing is also having consistent conversations, with our employees, especially when we are trying to make changes at the managerial level. We don't just want a situation where people come into work one day and then they realize that everything has changed. So throughout the whole process of wanting to effect this change, we're not saying we're having a conversation at every point in time, but at the times when we think that the employees need to have the information, just so that, because sometimes there might be adjustments that they also need to make. So we don't just drop the information on them like you have no choice. So it's a thing of we communicate with them at the necessary time so that they know that this is what is going on at the managerial level. This is what the management is trying to do, and the changes that they are about to effect, and how it's going to impact you. Now, of course, at the times when we also get their feedback to before the final decisions are made. And then another thing that we do is, while we try to be flexible with our employees and to know that there's an open door policy, you can come and talk at any point in time you want to do, we also are big on setting boundaries and expectations. So everybody knows that, yes, there's an open door policy for your managers. You can come in, talk whenever you want to talk, but then you also know that what your expectations are as regards performance, and so you deliver. We are not in the business of babysitting the people that we work with. So we need people to be able to understand that, and that is communicated. So we are very big on communication because we realize that the more we speak, the more people know. So in fact, at some of our meetings, one of the things that we start with is to first of all talk about the mission and the vision of the organization all the time, just so that it is at the forefront of our minds and people understand what the organization stands for, what we are trying to do. And so in everything that you're doing on a daily basis for the organization, you have that at the back of your mind.
Great. Thank you very much. That's quite very insightful. Okay, please be assured that we have a safe place here, but whatever we say here can be repeated. Okay, for the final question, which goes to you, the question is, what innovative engagement practices have worked well in your organization, and what advice would you give to companies looking to strengthen employees' commitment?
So thank you for that insightful question. So innovative, pretty much, but I think the 5 C's that drive employee engagement are very crucial, and we can spin strategies to cover the 5. And the first is care. The second is that you want to connect. The third is that you need to coach. The fourth is that you need to encourage these employees to contribute so that they should speak out. And the fifth is to congratulate. And the initiatives that I find make Blue Bulb a great place to work are tied or scattered across these 5 C's. Okay. As an organization, we care deeply, deeply about our employees, and it's not just theoretical for us. We care deeply. I think a month ago, for example, one of us had a tragic incident, and at 2:12 at night, I could count at least 6 employees that were on the mainland with the staff. We care. We truly care. At every point in time, when we have to balance employee well-being with performance, you will see that we will lean more towards employee well-being, because we know that when we are all okay, really okay, that we are all able to perform optimally. So it's not theoretical for us to practice the principle of care as a business. The second is that we connect. We say it jokingly within us that if you're having a party and you don't want a crowd, don't tell us, because we will show up. So really, if, for example, you were going to have a naming ceremony, for example, and we had, I think, 3 this year alone, just call us and don't call any other person. We will come with our snacks, we will come with our smiles, and we're enough crowd to make your party happen. And so I'm talking about connecting. The third is to coach. And to be honest, again, this is not gainsaying. I don't know that, for example, I'm speaking personally. Remember I said I'm an engaged employee. So I'm hoping that, since I'm not a HR professional, I'm hoping that as I tell my story, I can encourage the HR professionals here to see what can happen when you deploy these principles that you are being taught here. I don't know that over the last 2 years, for example, that I've spent in Blue Bob, that I've had any life-changing decision without talking to my boss. And what that means is that he's no longer my boss. He's become a coach. And he did not attain that role because I'm an employee. He attained that role because of his investments in me. I know that I can reach out to him to give me credible advice that helps me to become a better person as a profession, in my professional life and in my personal life. So we want to encourage, our initiatives have to help and empower our managers, especially to be coaches. That's the third one. The fourth one is to contribute. It's almost an aberration, for example, when we are having our formal and informal meetings, for employees not to speak. In Blue Bob, for example, at the first Mondays in each month, we have a session called Team Connect. So HR tells us of certain changes or certain initiatives or things that have happened in the previous month and things that will happen in the new month. And then we get feedback from employees. And then the session will typically end with, just call it the GCO's column. He would speak to us from his heart. It's not scripted, what to expect, what we should celebrate. It's just really a village meeting, right? Now, why am I emphasizing that? At that village meeting, at the last village meeting, I talked about something called the James effect. Now, James is a colleague of mine who is known to speak out in meetings. And what was he saying? He was asking us to adopt that culture because everyone has a voice. And it's not only that we ask our colleagues to contribute, it's that they can see that whatever they contribute, whatever initiatives they contribute are being thought through. One of the initiatives I can tell clearly from the top of my head that had led to changes within our meeting was Shotlers. I think maybe 4 Team Connects ago, someone had said, you know what, traffic has become a pain. Why don't we bring up a bus shuttling service for colleagues? And it was almost immediately implemented. So when employees see that when they make these suggestions are actually implemented where feasible, it encourages them to speak and it makes them more engaged. The fifth is congratulate. We celebrate everything in Blue Bob. You have a master's degree very fast. And if flyer is out on our WhatsApp group, people will send you memes. It's your birthday, it's your work anniversary, and it doesn't even matter whether it's a Sunday. That's if it's a non-work day. I think somebody clocked 6 years on Sunday, and then we had shared an e-flyer. So I know that I'm selling my brand to you, but I'm selling it because absolutely it is a fantastic place to work. And I hope that my story as a non-HR practitioner would help you understand, all of our HR practitioners here, that we can all work together to create healthy workplaces so that our productivity can improve and we can together deliver a healthy economy like our Honorable Commissioner had shared today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just a thought in my head is the fact that when everybody can connect during events. First Bank, would you like to adopt them, bring 8,000 people to possibly one of the naming ceremony? At this point, I'll be adopting the last two, which is congratulations. Can we give the panelists a round of applause, please? Okay, now it's time for us to hear you. Well, regrettably, we have very limited time in, so we're just going to be giving two people an opportunity to ask questions. Even before asking, somebody has his hands raised all high. And then I got the two. Please, can you just hand over the mics to them so they can ask their questions? First one is the gentleman down the line. Thank you. I hope we'll be using an encyclopedia for your response. Okay.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the insightful conversation. I wish to be your HR. Good job, and thank you to the HR. So I would like to ask Madam Oluwatoyin, right? Can you please share a time in your journey where you had to design an employee engagement for workforce comprising of core staff and support staff? There are some of us who are working in an organization that will have support staff and core staff. Thank you. Did you get my question? Did you get my question? Yes, please.
Your question actually is something a consultant will want to do, but we're going to give you a snippet of that response. Just giving you the idea, but you have to pay for that consultation. Okay. Question number 2.
Hello, everyone. First, I want to thank the panelists for such an insightful session. My name is Shijuwala. I am an HR practitioner at Savannah Energy and also an organizational psychologist. Sorry, I write things down, so I wrote my question down. And the question is, in what ways do we ensure that employee engagement strategies are not just HR-owned, but also cascade down to team-level leadership KPIs? And I say this because managers are like the biggest they are the biggest people who sustain employee engagement. So how do we equip them to be engagement multipliers and not engagement blockers? Thank you.
Great. Can I ask that Funke, you respond to that? Is that okay? Thank you. So first question.
Okay, thank you for your question. So how do we engage both core staff and support staff? Right, that was your question. So if I'm going to look at it from our own organization and the way we operate, where I work at the moment, now we have found ourselves not to differentiate. And the reason I say this is because, and again, maybe because of what we do, because we like to engage everyone, and we cannot find ourselves being able to provide our services to people on the outside, to our clients. We can't be found to be people who want to listen to our clients, who want to be able to make them better people, make them wholesome people. And then within our own organization, we then find a way to say, we're going to separate. So we don't separate engagement in our organization between both the core staff and the support staff. Now, of course, I mean, the core staff are there more than the support staff are, depending on the situation. But in terms of engagement, in fact, our support staff probably even need more engagement than our core staff, because they are kind of like, they always have to be there. There's always one thing or the other for them to do, hence the word support staff. So for our organization at Owning My Greatness, we engage them at the same level. We don't differentiate. If you don't speak within yourself to then ask whether you are core, you are support, you're most likely not going to know the difference. So we don't separate the way we engage with our staff. As long as you're a staff, you're a member of the organization, we relate to you at the same level.
Thank you. I think that talks directly to, a round of applause for our place. It talks directly to critically what Great Workplaces does, and that's a best practice any organization should actually adopt. So Funke, can you please respond to the next question?
Sure. So I'll take a leaf from your book. When I was reflecting before coming here today, I wrote something down, and I'm going to read it because I think it really summarizes some of the points you raised. So engagement is more than a metric for HR. It's a leadership mindset. When people feel seen, trusted, and part of the vision, they do more than their jobs. They build with you. And that's where performance truly begins. Your question is on how to ensure we have more enablers than blockers when you think about management. It's critical. Within the group I work for, as I mentioned 2 years ago, we recognized that we cannot but start to manage and measure manager effectiveness. When people leave, it's often based on a relationship issue, or maybe they feel the organization is not delivering something that they find critical to their success. So what can you do? What must you do? The connectedness is critical. It's important. What we do at the start of every year is once we've crafted what our strategy is, we sit down together, and the first thing is ensuring that the MD CEO has what we call a mission plan. What is the mission? What must I achieve this year? And who am I going to hold responsible for delivering based on their core responsibilities? We then align this and assign it by cascading to individuals. So I, as Funke Shobanjo, not as my title, I have core responsibilities that I must deliver on. We've stepped away now from it being corporate, far-fetched, sky high, and doesn't really resonate with me. But what must I do in my day-to-day role to ensure that my CEO meets his objectives and we achieve the targets we've set as an organization? Part of that involves setting my KPIs. What are the measures of success for Funke Shobanjo by the end of the year? They're not all technical. It is imperative that you track and you measure non-technical performance as well, because it's about people. How do you engage? If you're a star performer, but at the end of the day, you are hitting the numbers, but you are terrible as an individual, there's going to be nobody left to work with you. The organization cannot deliver. I don't care what anyone tells me, yeah, sign all the mandates, get all the transactions closed. But if you cannot sit in a room with that individual, your clients are going to leave. So it's important that you actually set KPIs that also track non-financial performance. You have a balanced scorecard perhaps, and you start to look at things that really resonate with people, the level of empathy, how effective you are. Are you open to feedback? I recall years ago agreeing with my direct reports that I would always end my meetings, my one-on-one meetings, and I do my best. I try so hard to make sure I have one meeting a month. But I sit with everybody, and the last question I ask remains the same. In fact, I am the one that sends the meeting request, because I don't trust that they will always send the invite, because they'll say, you are busy, we don't know that you'll attend, So I make a recurring schedule, and I send out the meetings on a monthly basis. The last question I ask everybody that works with me: what can I do better? What do you want me to stop doing? What should I continue doing? What should I start doing to help you? End of the day, if there's no connectedness, there's no engagement, might as well close shop. I really hope that helps.
Great. And actually, this is a very interesting interactive session. And to this, we have come to the end of today. But you have an online person? Just one. Okay, cool. With Funke's delivery, if she were a preacher, I would have shared the offering basket. Question from our online audience is, how do you measure the success of your engagement initiative? I'm looking at the right person to respond to that. How do you measure the success of your engagement initiative? Well, I can quickly respond to that. Well, we have what we call the employee opinion surveys, and what we do within those surveys is to measure some criteria: trust, engagement, motivation, pride, and all of the things we talked about. And after we have those anonymous submissions, we do an analysis to see what impact that has had on our business and also on our people. So at the end of the day, we keep track of the highs because we want to keep them high, as well as the lows. So critical will be a post-EOS conversation where we talk to how can we do better? What can we do better? You understand? What can we do to make you, more productive, more engaged? So with those heart-to-heart talks, we then cascade it also to skip-level conversations, like skip-level conversations with the MD, straight to the CEO, where people can talk to exactly how they feel, what they think we can do together as a business, and what they think we can do together as a people, which is very critical. So we measure those, and we use them, and at the end of the day, we re-measure in the next year to see if we have actually improved, because for us, people actually is our best product. And with that, we have come to the end of today's session. Can we please give the panelists a round of applause? I think they did a great job, don't you? Thank you very much for staying till the end of this session. Yes, ma'am.
All right, we'd just like for the, yes, one more photo with, the panelists can please leave, thank you, and the moderator. So we just want the representative from BOI, and then Blue Bulb, as well as PCL, and BOI, I already mentioned, yes. BOI, representative from BOI, PCL, Blue Bulb, please, as well as Great Place to Work. All right, at this point, we've come to the end of the second panel, and second and final panel. Once again, please, let's put our hands together for our brilliant panelists and our moderator for doing an excellent job. If you could just make the applause a little louder for them. They've really impacted us today. Now, to give us the closing remarks today, we have the editor of BusinessDay, Mr. Tayo Fagbole. He'll be giving us the closing remarks today. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Since I'm the only one between our leaving and going, I'll make it short and sweet. Thank you all very much for your time. I see that the room filled on and stayed filled, and I think it's a good sign of the engagement in the room, the energy in the room. And also to thank the Honorable Commissioner, Professor Akin Abayomi, for extending his time to stay and listen. And I think that's very honorable of him. We thank you very much. We thank each and every one of you in the room. We thank our wonderful panelists for keeping it engaging, our moderators. But above all, we want to thank our sponsors who made today possible. The Bank of Industry, Philip Consulting, Blue Bob, and our technical partners, Great Place to Work. Thank you for making this wonderful. But I think what's more important for us at Business Day is that what you've learned today, you take it with you. But you can be guaranteed that as Business Day, we will keep reporting, we will keep amplifying your thoughts, your insights, what you have shared with us today. And also, to make our next conference a better one, kindly scan the QR code at the back of the brochure and give us your candid thoughts about how we can be better. Thank you all. Have a great, wonderful afternoon and a safe journey back to your respective homes and offices.